In this first segment, I want to talk about leading yourself. Specifically, I want to talk about what does it take to be successful in leading others and leading the organization. So you might get a little confused by that. This is why. Because often I work with leaders who are already leading others, and leading in the organization, but they missed a really important step. And that is first putting the mask on themselves, developing themselves, and having a strategy for ongoing growth and development, coaching yourself and having the mentors around you that kind of pad your success for now and into the future. And because they didn't do that initial work, we have to go back and look at self and rebuild self and rebuild that foundation that helps us to be successful and sustainable throughout our career. So I want to start there because I think that without doing that, the other two segments that I'm going to introduce and we're going to talk about will almost seem a little meaningless. So let's make this our foundational first step one. In leading yourself, when I talk about leading yourself, I'm talking about having a type of leadership approach that means you lead with intention and with executive presence. And you do not have to be an executive to lead with executive presence. It means, however, that you are emotionally strong, that you are self-aware, and that you are capable of managing not only your emotions, but the emotions of others. Because if you can't do that, getting to the next levels is going to be really very challenging. And then it also means that you wake up with a sense of purpose in everything that you do, that you have deliberate mindset for how you're going to go about your day, for how you're going to lead a meeting or now a webinar, right? That there is absolute drive in you to have success in everything that you do. Now, does it mean that you're perfect? No, it does not. But it does mean that you can identify your emotional quotient. It does mean that you are effective at working through, helping others work through kind of what we're dealing with now when we talk about dealing with this pandemic. And you'll know, because if you just take a step back and you think about the pandemic and the crisis that we face globally, you'll be able to sense whether or not you've done a good job at managing your own emotions, or whether you can actually now ready to put the mask on someone else. You know, it means that you can create a brand plan and that you are able to achieve success because you've been able to help others work through this pandemic, and that you've been able to help others work through crisis because you know how to manage yourself. What I want you to do is to examine the feedback that you've received about your leadership, even just this year. If you go back to even February, start there, or March. You know, what have been your shining moments in this time frame? And what are some opportunities for growth and development? You can determine the type of leader that you have simply by looking at how we lead and how we manage through a crisis, not just others, but how we manage ourselves. If we're panicky and frustrated, then guess what? The people around us are going to kind of feel that way as well. So leaders have to almost take on a flight attendant mindset, and you have to be unshakable, and you have to be strong in the face of fear and frustration and the idea of being uncertain. So get the support that you need, build a tight network of peers and friends, people who can provide emotional support for you. I want you to even think about speaking with a counselor or a therapist if you're in this headspace, right? I want you to think about how you can create a type of go-to-market strategy for your plan. What are some of the immediate changes that you're going to need to make in order to have a more positive effect on others as you go throughout this pandemic process? And then what you're going to find is that as you begin to build out this type of go-to-market strategy or a brand plan for yourself, is that what's going to result is that you're going to have a reputation for being present, self-aware, and for being purposeful. I want you to feel as if your voice is heard. Ultimately, getting to the next level means making sure that you are a leader because people follow you, not because you have a position. And that means as leaders, I need to make sure that your voice is heard. I also want to make sure that you feel respected, and then that you are respected for your contributions, that you're seen as a go-to professional and leader, thought leader, and that you have improved interpersonal relationships. That's it. That's what it looks like. At the end of all of this, those are the four things that result in a leader who successfully is able to manage himself or herself. I look forward to seeing you in the next step in our series.